hello to everyone out there in internet world. This is sort of going to be a Statera podcast episode, I think, but not the typical one. It's just going to be me on a bit of a talk, I think, and maybe a bit of a rant. I don't know, but just about, I guess, mainly pertaining to what happened in South America and more about what's come out since, more about what's happened since I've been back and what's been going on, and but also I guess, things learnt in the jungle as well, and it was really an intense time, really intense, interesting, amazing, hard, tough. It was as tough as it was, though, I loved every minute of it. It was just being in there and in the jungle and amongst some amazing people was great. That was all fantastic. And out of the 5 ceremonies, 50% of the time they were fantastic too. Just some amazing things occurred, and I learnt and I was shown. But the other 50% is really tough. It's really bringing you down to, your rawest self, like absolutely rawest self, where you've got no option but to deal with it and put up with it. It's like being stuck. I'm thinking of that movie A Clockwork Orange, where he's sat in front of that projector with his eyes cast open and they're putting drops in his eyes to keep them moist, and he's stuck there and he's having to look and to listen at all these things he doesn't want to look at. Pardon me for the focusing. I've really got to get a better camera. This shitty camera is so bad. I'll have to sort something out, but please bear with me. So I liken it to that. It was, can be very tough, very emotionally draining, I keep likening it again to that sort of state, when you get into that state, which for me generally occurs after I've had some intense moment of pleasure or beauty or something just amazingly beautiful. I always get this other state which is very dark, but that's part of the experience, that's part of the learning experience. But it feels like the worst hangover you've ever had. When you get those hangovers where you just, all you want to do is die. it's similar to that. So, but coming out of that, it's like I'm going to use all these different descriptions of the experience, I guess. But for anyone who's ever run a marathon, or anyone who's ever in Perth, anyone that's watching this from Perth knows about Jacob's Ladder, and it's just that intense feeling of hurt and discomfort, but you finish it and it's the most amazing feeling in the world. So that's very much what ayahuasca is like. It is very similar to that, and the lessons that come from it, as long as you've been in the right headspace, as long as you've stayed strong, stay true, stay centered, then they're invaluable. They're just invaluable. So yeah, I think I'm doing this on my own because my brothers Daniel and Ross, we tried to do a podcast last weekend, and I could only get halfway through it. It was just I just couldn't talk about it. I really couldn't, and I've spoken to a few really close friends about my experiences, but I'm finding it very difficult to tell anyone else about it, except for just like the broad overview, I guess. And I feel like I should talk about it though, and maybe that's what I'm doing now. Maybe that's why I feel like doing this. I don't even know if I'm going to upload this. I'll see what happens. And I don't think I'm going into the nitty gritty. I might wait till later. It might be weeks or months before I get into the nitty gritty of what happened. But just for now, just something a bit more on the broad side. I made a post on the Statera podcast Facebook page explaining to. I've just had such a I'm so grateful, so thankful for the friends I have. I'm such a fortunate man. really, like, to everyone out there that's, supported me and, just asked if I'm okay or whatever it might be, I thank you so much, because it has helped a tremendous amount, When I got back, I was quite ill as well. Most of us got quite ill while we were over there, and so the last couple of days, and I was physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually exhausted. I lost like 10 kilos, and you can tell my skinny little chicken arms. Just found, found the going really tough when I got back, and instead of giving myself some space and some time, I really threw myself into, work, which I should have given myself a bit of rest. I started working in like 3 days after I got back, and my friends, and as great as that was, and as fantastic it was as it was to share with a particularly close group of friends on the first weekend I got back, it was quite tough, and I think if I get the opportunity to go again, then I'll do things differently, but it was what it was. So I almost didn't make it to Peru. Like, I was supposed to go there. Anyone out there that's, that I've told this story to personally or has watched a podcast, my experiences with stumbling into Alex Gray art gallery, who was exhibiting in New York just over 2 years ago, and it really was a fate thing. I never believed in fate before that, but it was fate. I was guided there, no doubt about it. Too much of a coincidence, and how that led on to being given the opportunity to travel to Peru, amongst several other things that occurred. But I was supposed to be in Peru, but when we left Sydney Airport, flying to Auckland first as a stopover to South America, our plane got struck by lightning, and it wasn't just a normal. Apparently, it happens quite a bit, but it doesn't. Most people don't hear it, don't realise. This is like a crack and a thud on the top of the fuselage. Like, I thought something had crashed into us, and that was it. We were all going to die. I thought the fuselage was going to open up in front of me, and that was it. And the light covers all blew off the fuselage. The oxygen masks all came down, and people started crying and freaking out, and for about, I don't know, a second and a half, I thought, oh, well, I'm dead, and that's it. But then I was like, well, no, I'm supposed to be in Peru. Like, I'm supposed to be getting my ass to Peru, so I'm not dying now. This can't be happening. And obviously I'm here now, so we didn't die, but we had to stop off in Auckland and swap planes, and luckily there was, just by sheer coincidence, there was one already sort of ready for us. They had just been getting service, so we managed to get that to the flight to Santiago, and from Santiago up to Peru. So just met some amazing people on those flights. Those I was on about 4 or 5 different flights. Just amazing people who I'm going to just keep in contact with for a long time, I think. That's one of the things I love about flying, just the people you meet on a plane. I think it's great. So got to Iquitos, and the people who had organised it, I'm not going to use their real names. The main girl, who's from London, who's just, I love her so much. I don't even know how to. I don't even know how to. I don't know how I can describe how much I love this woman, and it's not just me, just everyone that's around her. She's just incredible. Just like, she's not like no one else I've ever met. And I heard about it from this podcast that Nick did, and Nick Gabriel on the London Real podcast. And this is before I even had the opportunity to go to Peru, and it was because of Nick that I went. Actually, it was just, again, a very fortunate circumstance. But the way he spoke about this woman in a couple of podcasts that him and Brian did, she just sounded really interesting. And again, pardon this focusing, but I managed to go, and then he gave me her email address, and I've become Facebook friends with her, as it happens, in these modern times. And she's just beautiful, just absolutely gorgeous. But then to meet she's just this amazing personality as well, this amazing presence. And it was like the last day, I think I said to her that you're both the silliest and strongest woman I've ever met. And it's true. She's just so silly, like, swears like a trooper and all that, but just this immense beauty. You guys get the idea how much I think of this woman. So yeah, so the first night I was in Iquitos, I got to meet her along with another woman who was quite a central character, I guess, in Nick's podcast, the podcast he did about his time in Peru with the same group of people I was with. And it turns out that her and I would end up having a very close connection, and we will do in the near future too. She's coming to Perth, and that was all meant to be as well. When I say I was supposed to be in Peru, I definitely believe it, but I think the biggest reason I was supposed to be in Peru, among a lot of reasons, was for her, really. And yeah, she's going to be coming back here in January, in a few weeks' time, and I'm going to be here for her, and I can't wait to see her. So as far as names go, we'll call the leader of the group, if you will. She's a shaman as well. I'm going to call her Kate. And the other girl who's coming to Perth, I'm going to call her, let's say, Sharon. And both just gorgeous women, just inside and out, just beautiful. So I got to meet them on the first night I was there, and I knew I've been looking forward to meeting them for a while, but then to meet them was just something else. And yeah, that was fantastic. So we spent the next couple of days in Iquitos and getting to know everyone else, and it was I'm a fairly amorous person, and I didn't at any time feel like I was segregated from the group. Like, a lot of people there were from London who knew each other quite well, and which I didn't really know that, but that's how it came to be. That's how it was. And but I never was meant to feel at any time like I was separate, or but aside from being my normal sort of not that I'm heaps outgoing, but I just wasn't myself for the first 4 or 5 days of the group. I guess what we're doing there was quite intense, and I just didn't really feel myself. I feel like I needed to protect myself, so I wasn't quite my true self. But everyone was still great, and yeah, just amazing people. I mean, we're all like-minded, so we're all there for basically the same reason, to undertake this intense journey. We had 5 ayahuasca ceremonies in 10 days to go with other plant medicines that we did as well. And yeah, I truly have brothers and sisters out of it now. And in fact, one girl, one of the Swiss girls, she had a strong message during one of the ceremonies, I think during the 3rd and 4th. I felt quite close to her. We felt quite close to each other from the very beginning, but she was told that her and I were brothers and sisters, in a previous life, and that makes total sense, like, it felt, yeah, that sounds about right, If you had told me that 2 years ago, maybe I would have been open-minded about it, but, I would have sort of passed it off, but no, not at all now, out of like some of the shit I've seen now, and some of the shit, friends of mine have seen, and nothing surprises me anymore, not at all. So, which is the way it should be, We look at life, a lot of people, unfortunately, have got this sort of construct put around them where you can only look at life from what you can see and what you can hear from the 5 senses, but there's so much more to it. There's that great graph of the total photo spectrum and the total sound spectrum, and then human beings just incorporate it's like that long and about that wide, like, of our eyesight and our hearing, we can't see shit compared to what's out there. And the thing with psychedelics, especially I think the organic ones like mushrooms and ayahuasca, etc., it just opens your senses up to what else is going on, in this universe. And there's lots going on. There's lots. Maybe I have to stop moving around here so much. Stop the focusing. And that's the benefit of ayahuasca. So, excuse me guys, I'm just gonna do something here. See if this works. Hang on. Yeah, the benefit of ayahuasca and of mushrooms as well, DMT, whatever it might be, as long as it's used correctly. This camera. If anyone out there is watching this and has got a bit of spare money they want to flick my way, like I'm at uni now, so I don't really have money to burn, but I'm most grateful for like a decent camera. It'd be fantastic. So yeah. So we had the experiences, we had the 5 ceremonies, and the first 2 for me were very educational and very showing me again about the universe, about myself, about how I've done things to affect people both positively and negatively in the past. And they were quite beautiful. I saw some amazing things, with my third eye. That's the only way to describe it. And through the sense of the third eye, I saw some amazing things, and they were good. They were tough. The first ceremony, like other ceremonies I had before Peru, usually the ceremony finishes and you sort of start to feel back to normal. You start to feel back in one piece, but with this medicine that we had, and maybe it was the way Ron ran the ceremony, I remember being back in bed. The ceremony, the first night must have finished about 1, and I was back in bed, still just tripping balls, and journeying quite hard. And it must have been like that for like 2 hours, and I thought, fuck, I've flipped a switch here. I've gone past the point of no return. Like I've taken too much ayahuasca or something, and I didn't let myself panic, but I was a little bit worried, and I managed to get through it alright. I can't really remember what came to me. I don't have my pad in front of me because I wrote it all down, but I don't want to go through it at the moment, so I don't have it in front of me. But I got through that. That was okay, and I fell asleep. And the next morning is just fantastic, It's like being on ecstasy or something like that, just so full of love and a connection to everyone. And the second was different. The ceremony finished and I was a bit more coherent, wasn't so discombobulated, and like that first ceremony, I think I was the last one to leave. The helpers, there's 2 helpers in each ceremony, they had to walk me out of the Maloka, the temple where we had these ceremonies, and walk me to my bed, or to the front of the tambo, which was like this large dormitory that most of us were sleeping in, and I was just again just discombobulated. It's the only way to describe it. And so the second one was different. The third ceremony was probably the most interesting experience of my life, and I'd have to say, obviously can't speak for everyone that was in that temple that night, but I'd say it would have been the most interesting experience for most of the people in there. We had Ron Wheelock as our shaman for 4 of the 5 ceremonies. For the 3rd ceremony, had this woman named Adela, who was Peruvian, and she was 79 years old and had been working with ayahuasca for 60 years. So that's just incredible. And Ron's very masculine, he's very structured in his ceremony, which that's what us males really enjoyed about the way he ran his ceremony. He's very structured and solid, and males need that. We need to have that, well, most of us do anyway. We need to have that solid structure, and he gave us that. We were all looking forward to having Adela there because she was much more feminine and had that feminine energy, and we were really looking forward to it. But this ceremony, it started, and I could tell right away something was not right. And she got into a 2nd or 3rd Ikaro, and Ikaros are the songs that the shamans sing, that gather different entities and different energies, and it dictates the ceremony, it dictates which way the ceremony goes. And when you've got a solid group in a ceremony, you can feel it's just everyone's tight, there's no gaps. Or in this 3rd ceremony, I just feel gaps everywhere, just everywhere, and sure enough, this ceremony descended into chaos. It didn't take long, maybe 15-20 minutes into the ayahuasca taking effect. Maybe even the ayahuasca hadn't even taken effect, but I thought I was in a mental asylum. I honestly did. I thought, what's going on here? What's everyone doing? And I know I wasn't the only one thinking that either, but it was really difficult. It was just a battle. The first 2 ceremonies were these immensely beautiful images, and I was taken to different planets, and saw my soul, I saw everyone else's soul, I saw this, saw UFOs, I saw this intelligence that was at the top of our Maloka, top of our temple, which it was quite incredible. I think I was in the 1st ceremony, but the 3rd was just nothing. It was just a battle. I was just battling to keep my wits about me, and to protect myself. There was quite a lot of negative energy in that room that had entered that room, and if you had have asked me before that ceremony, one of the guys battled quite hard in the 2nd ceremony, or maybe the 1st, with, I don't know if it was him. I still don't know if it was just him or if it was an entity, but he battled quite hard, and it was quite distracting for the rest of us. But that's just the way the ceremony was meant to go, and we all learned something from that as well. The 3rd went next level, and I really blame on Adela, because this particular gentleman wasn't the only one. This occurrence had another girl who was sitting 2 away from me on my right hand side, who also became gripped by some negative energy, and they started. Well, they were both on the floor. Both these people, who I love immensely. I just love both of them so immensely. So they were both writhing around the floor, moaning and groaning and yelling and talking in tongues. And then at one point during the ceremony, they started talking to each other, these 2 entities, but not in a language that anyone could understand. And I was like, okay, shit is real, So again, like I was going to say, before this, I never really believed in this whole dark demon negative energy, when I got stuck into this spiritual path, I guess, for lack of a better term, 4 or 5 years ago, I thought it was just all white fluffy clouds and harps and beauty, and but one of the biggest things I learned from all this is there is some fucking darkness out there. There is. And whether it's created by us, whether it's the energy that we put out and it creates this energy, or if it's external to us and we've got no choice in it, maybe it's a bit of both. I still really don't know, but it's out there. And really makes me think of that great interview that Brett Kirk, who used to be the captain of the Sydney Swans football team, did. And at one point he spoke about, darkness within inside you. I think she asked him if he's a perfect man, and he said, far from it, but it's just being aware of the dark, knowing the dark, being aware of the dark, and finding more light. And that's what life is about, for not only yourself, but not only internally, but also externally as well. In life, that's what it's about. There is darkness out there, but it's not to be dwelled upon or immersed in. It's there to balance against the goodness as well that's out there. That's the way our universe works. The universe that we inhabit, that's the way it works. There's yin and yang, and we can let either one of those things affect us, the negative or the positive, and we've got a choice in that. And that was the biggest thing that came out for me, but we need to be strong enough as well to protect ourselves against that. And we should also have a strength to protect the people that we love and the people that are around us as well. That's really the key. When you can start doing that, when you become strong enough that you can do that, then that's what it's all about. But first you really need to start from yourself, start on your own. So this ceremony was just maybe. Well, we gave the sharing. We each ceremony, the day after each ceremony, we have a sharing and we share our experiences. And in my sharing, I was quite, maybe, I don't know if hard was the word on everyone else, but I just didn't feel like we stayed centered and we stayed in control. The men hadn't really bonded as well at this stage. The women had, and they'd done a couple of things, but we hadn't really bonded as men. And I think as the men in the group felt like we'd let down the entire group, which we had. I mean, I'd try to stay as strong as possible, and I'd stayed centered, and I was quite annoyed that other people couldn't, but that's all right, that's just the way it was. But I was annoyed at myself for not being strong enough to prevent what was happening in that circle that night, and that's something that was shared by most of the men. But I also said towards the end of the sharing that perhaps there was a method to her madness. Maybe that's she guided the ceremony in that direction. So we had to face up to ourselves. The very last thing I said in the sharing was, when I went back to bed that night, I was still journeying quite hard. It was the hardest night of my life. Well, up until then at least, it was the hardest night of my life, and it was very difficult. I was laying in bed and I just had to battle all this negative energy that was coming out. And Sharon came to me quite often during that period of the night, and it turned out I was talking to her the next morning. I also came to her. She helped me a lot, just with her just beautiful feminine energy, and I can't wait to see her again in a few weeks' time. Battled quite hard. But the point is, I found out more about myself in those 3 hours. Well, during that whole ceremony, but especially during the 3 hours after the ceremony until I could finally get to sleep, which was about 5-6 o'clock in the morning. Found out more about myself in that time than the whole 32 years of my life. It was immensely strength building night, just to realize how strong I was. I always knew I was strong, like, spiritually especially. I've always been, ever since I was a little kid, even before I had any awareness about all this, I always knew that I was. But I was really put to the test that night, and I really proved to myself just how strong I was. And so that was fantastic. As tough as the night was, it was also very beneficial, And other people, I wouldn't say most, a lot of people had a really tough time in this particular ceremony, but a fair few people had a good time as well and really enjoyed it. So it just goes to show everyone views it all differently. then the fourth ceremony was the fourth and fifth ceremonies were about healing. The fourth ceremony was a little bit about myself individually and everyone else as well individually, but it was mostly about Kate. So Kate again is the shaman from London who organised all this, and early that day, I really just wanted to talk to her. I wanted to talk to her for a long time about how she got to where she was, and that day I managed to get her aside, and we had a really good talk for about half an hour, 45 minutes. It was almost like a podcast interview. It was just awesome to sit down and talk to her and find out about her and what made her her. Again, I found her such an intriguing woman, such an amazing woman that I just wanted to know, and what a life she's had. She's been put through the mill, well and truly. And she's in her mid-30s now, and she's done it tough. She's done it really tough, but it's all for a purpose. If she didn't have those occurrences or things happen to her, then she wouldn't be who she is now. And because of her suffering, the world is a better place. Do you know what I mean? So she's I won't go too much into what it is, but medically she's battled something for quite a long time, and it was her birthday this day as well, and Ron each ceremony would pick out, I guess, 4 or 5 different people he'd give her his own personal healing on during the ceremony. And before the beginning of this fourth ceremony, he went up to Kate and said, "I'm just going to give a healing on you and you only. It's your birthday, I want to give you this." And Kate's a woman who's tried everything as far as spiritual healing goes, and a lot of different Western things, I think, as well. But she's a very strong healer herself. I was totally unprepared for how strong she was. I thought she might have just been, I thought she might have just facilitated circles and organised trips to South America. She is so strong spiritually, as far as healing goes. It's just so strong. And but yeah, she takes a lot on board, and it affects her physically. So this particular night, I didn't have any visions, or I didn't have anything happen to me. Ron had this gong, which quite a large gong, which once this thing goes back in focus, it's probably about 1.5 meters in diameter, and he'd use it during ceremony. He'd play it for, depending, maybe between 5 and 10 minutes. This particular night he played it, and when he was gonging on it, just this most incredible sound, this amazing resonance, my body started shaking, and I thought, am I getting, it's in the jungle, it's quite warm. I was like, am I getting cold, or what's going on? My body just started shaking, and what I realised is that my body was resonating with the sound. My whole body, physically, and my whole body was just shaking. I remember at one stage thinking, oh shit, I need to try and control myself, because I'm going to start putting off the people on either side of me. But I realised I can't. I've got to just let go and give into this. And I didn't understand what was going on. I wasn't experienced enough, and probably still not experienced enough with ayahuasca to understand what happens exactly to you during ceremony. But it sort of turned out that what it was spiritual healing that was occurring to me. This, what do they call it? Like spiritual doctors. They call it something else in Spanish, but sort of entering me as energy and healing me. And my whole night, the whole ceremony, which goes for 5-6 hours, turned out to be that way. And so that went on for a while longer, even through the Icaros and such. And then it came time for Kate to have her healing. So Ron got Kate up, and sat her on the floor in front of his altar and started doing this healing. And yeah, it was we all witnessed, maybe somewhere in the universe there was something going on as strong, as far as energy and all that thing goes, as strong as what was going on in that Malacca that night, but there was nothing stronger. We all witnessed something that was extraordinary that night with the healing between Ron and Kate. Every time I've thought about it since, so it was maybe like 5 weeks ago, I'm lost for words. Like when it comes to me, I just get choked up. And so Kate laid down and Ron started doing his thing, and Kate started crying and getting louder. It was this sorrowful cry, and just like this intense pain that was coming from out of her. And that was part of her healing. That was what her healing involved. And she was on her back, and she was like when you get a sports injury or something and you're laying on the ground and you're stamping your feet on the ground because you're in so much pain. And she was doing that with this intense, I wouldn't call it wailing, but this intense sorrowful crying. And it was so emotional, and you can tell everyone, after being so disjointed the ceremony before, 2 nights before, like us men had gathered together before that for ceremony and did a fire circle, and we really bonded the afternoon before that for ceremony. It was an amazing experience. We really bonded, and we were so fucking strong for that 4th ceremony, so strong. It was fantastic. But we needed to be for Kate, especially for everyone, but especially for Kate, because everyone knew there was going to be something special about that night after what had happened the 3rd night. Ron was back. We knew things were going to be more structured, more solid, more set, and that's the way it was. And we just experienced something incredible that night. And yeah, Ron did this healing on her, and it was just intense. It was amazing. It was incredible. It was just incredible. There's nothing else to say. And she went and sat back down. She's got quite a strong, she can communicate with spirits quite strongly, quite easily, and I don't know if easily is a word, but strongly. And they told her that no one was allowed to touch her throughout that night and the next day, and no one was allowed to make eye contact with her. It was all the next 18, 24 hours was still a lot about healing. So only Sharon was allowed to touch her and help her. So that's what happened. But fuck, all of us I just wanted to go and give her the biggest hug. Just hug her and just not let go of her. Some of that pain that she was expressing, I said to her in the sharing the next day, it's in my heart, and it always will be in my heart. There's no doubt about it. Like, I want to keep that in my heart because that's a part of her, and I've kept a lot of her goodness as well. But that heartache, I wanted to take away from her and take it on myself, and I have, and that's great. I'm so thankful for that, So you can tell, like during that ceremony, during the healing, each individual was helping to heal, both, not just Kate, but also Ron, I don't know if I can do this properly. I remember at one stage, everything was involuntary to me that night. I was shaking, I was shuddering. I remember I sort of got down and put my elbows on my knees. I'll try and do it. And I put my hands up to my head like that, my crown, and I was just like that, and I was pointing directly at them. So I just bent right over, pointing directly at them. it was all involuntary. I think what was happening was that I was sending out energy to both Ron and Kate during those moments, and during that half hour, and just trying to give as much love as I could, and hopefully it helped in some small way. But that's what you could tell, everyone was doing that. Everyone was with those two. We were so connected that, the 27 people in that Malacca, plus Ron and Madado, his assistant, we're all so connected in one goal that particular night. And we spoke to her. I can't remember if it was the next day. It might have been the day after. We could speak to her again, and she said she felt a lot better. And I guess time will tell how much of an impact that healing did have on her. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. So again, I didn't have any visions except for at the beginning of a ceremony. In the third ceremony, my spirit warrior sort of came out and helped me. In the fourth one, and I got to see him and got to talk to him a little bit. And in the fourth one, because I knew it was just going to be about healing for not only myself but also for for Kate as well, that I needed some sort of protection, and I had this image of my spirit warrior was just he was inside me, but he was just sitting up a little bit, and he had this sword and he was just wielding it in front of me like this, and it was blazing with fire, just warding off anything that was coming around. So I knew for that fourth ceremony, I was sweet. I didn't have to worry about anything. I could just worry about healing, concentrate on healing, and concentrate on helping to heal both Kate and Ron. So I saw this, and I finished the fourth ceremony, and the next day I was like, fuck, I'm so fucking strong. Well, that's what I kept thinking, and I think I got too ahead of myself. There's no doubt about it. I got not up myself about it, but I was like, and I'd gone from being closing myself off a little bit to, after that third ceremony, I become my real self again. I came back to normal Adrian. I was more, again, amorous. I was more extroverted, and after that third ceremony, actually the day after, I was down we had a stream which we could swim in and bathe in, and that was dammed, and I was just stood on the dam wall, and one of my brothers there was just there on his own, and I said to him, listen mate, there's going to be a bit of noise, and I just let out these 3 loud yells, like Rah! Just top of my lungs, like facing up to the sky, and just 3 of them until I was exhausted. I just sort of slumped to one knee, and a couple of people came down from the area where, the communal area that we all sort of hung out in, and, is everything all right? And my brother said, yeah, everything's good, and, he sort of looked after me. This goddamn camera. Try something else. So, and that was like a release. I went back to being my true self after that, which was great. And so I had this strength back, and, well, not back. I mean, I'd gained this newfound strength. Maybe mental strength, and not an emotional strength, but just this spiritual strength, and like I could fight anything. And by the time we got to the 5th ceremony, I was, like all of us, I was really exhausted. Just really exhausted. And I had a really tough time of it in that 5th ceremony. It was a very, very humbling experience. That's very educational, but very humbling. Like, that I had that same image of my spirit warrior sort of wielding that sword in front of me, but this time it It was like he was fucking limp, like he could barely lift the sword. And I was like, oh shit. I remember thinking, oh fuck, here we go. I'm really gonna have to. This is all about my raw, true self. This ceremony, and it would turn out to be the hardest thing I've ever done. That ceremony, absolutely the hardest thing I've ever done, and I've always been really inquisitive, and if there is a hell, I've always wanted to know what hell would be like, what it was like, and just out of interest more than anything. And that whole thing of be careful what you wish for, because I was put into a mental hell realm for an hour and a half, maybe somewhere around there, sort of towards the end of the ceremony. I can't really even remember what happened at the beginning or the middle of that ceremony. Not much. I didn't experience any visuals, or didn't really have any lessons, or most of the lessons that occurred to me during the 5 ceremonies were actually after the ceremonies, when I was in bed, and things I needed to do help other people, you know, with my sister, you know, with an ex-girlfriend and her mum and her daughter as well. You know, I was shown some things about that, and what I needed to do to help as well. I also got told something I might talk about in a minute, but something I feel quite uncomfortable talking about, but I might as well talk about it in a minute. But so this 5th ceremony was all about me, and proving, you know, down in the trenches, literally down in the trenches, can you fight this out? And I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday about this particular occurrence, and I said to her that if some entity or something had come to me at one stage during that hour and a half when I was in the hell realm and said, we'll put you out of misery now, Adrian. You can die and you can pass on to heaven or wherever you go, meaning that you don't have to put up with this anymore. I think I would have said yes. I would have been quite content to go, yep, fuck this, I've had enough of this. But I don't know, I don't think I would have, because as hard as it was, I also loved it. I also loved every minute of it. Like, it's an amazing thing to find out about yourself in that way. You know, we do it physically and mentally here, you know, on this realm, but to do it in a completely different realm using ayahuasca is just a whole new level. And so I was in this mental anguish and torture for a long period of time, you know, and most people out there know about ayahuasca. You know, generally you purge during ceremonies, so you vomit. It's vomiting up bad energy, or you know, it's like a metaphysical purge, really. And I purged quite strongly all during that whole 10 days. I've been doing nothing but vomiting. You know, we all had, and with other things we had done as well, with plant medicines, etc. But this 5th ceremony started off like, it didn't come on till late, not fairly late like it usually did for me, but it was just more of a blah into the bucket, and like a blah. And this was as I was coming out of my hell realm, and you know, maybe my parents will watch this, and I'm sure they understand, they know, but I really have had a difficult time dealing with aspects of my childhood, you know, and I've got no doubt that's probably what's led me down sort of this path. I don't know if it's my childhood, if I'm doing all this now because of my childhood, or it's my childhood was like that because this is who I truly am, you know, trying to seek this existentialism, you know, to progress, to move forward, and the only way you can do that is through suffering. So, you know, I guess compared to a lot of other people, my childhood wasn't that bad, but, you know, it's all relative as well, and there was some very difficult aspects of my childhood which I still battle with today, but the ayahuasca has definitely helped with that. So, you know, yeah, through suffering comes intense learning and education and awareness. So whether it's in your childhood, your adulthood, anything in this earthly realm, or taking a psychedelic like iboga or ayahuasca, then it all has its merits. So then I went back. I came out of this hell realm, but I was still sort of in this hell realm where I was a child again, and then I was in a family setting in the lounge room or something, and just this intense, just like this fear or whatever, just this tension, just shitty, really shitty. And it's something I've been holding on to for, like, I'm 33 now, and something I've been holding on to for a long time. Slowly letting go of bits and pieces. But this particular ceremony anyway, like, this purging got stronger and stronger. And the ceremony had finished, and I was still journeying quite hard. And people had started to leave, and I was just like, went from those small blah to just blah. And blah. It's from the pits of your stomach type vomiting. I'm sure you all know that. You've all had it before. And I just felt like I was getting rid of all this bad negative energy from my childhood. And I just kept purging deeper and deeper. I don't know where it came from, because we barely eaten. We have to fast all afternoon, and so I hadn't eaten in over 12 hours, and it was good. I just had such amazing support around me as well. I could feel, one of my mums, I'll call her, she was sitting to my right, and I could sort of see her out of the corner of my eye, just looking over me as she'd finished journeying, but she was being protective of me, and she was looking over me. And so from that ceremony of absolute difficulty, the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life, and it was just humbling, really, really humbling. But then from that humbleness gave way to this new strength again, like this next level strength. At the time I was thinking, oh shit, maybe I'm not as strong as I think I am. But all it was showing me is that, no, you are strong, but don't be so up yourself about it. Like, it's not like that at all. You need to find that humility as well in your strength. And that's the way you can best use your strength to help other people. Help yourself firstly, and then help other people. You need to be humble about it. And not that I think I was too overboard with it, but I just didn't have that humility. And that ceremony really helped with that, And plus, again, like, I knew it was going to be the last ceremony. I had this negative energy that I needed to get up, and I just went for it. I really sort of went for it. I really wanted to purge. And because, I'm so fucking fortunate in my life, really. I've got nothing to complain about. I really do have a very fortunate life. I've got some, just some amazing friends who I love dearly, and I know who love me. And, I'm at university studying, landscape architecture and sociology. Just two great things to study. And, I get to live in Perth, Fuck, anyone who's done some travelling around the world who lives in Perth, you've got to understand how lucky we are. And for anyone that hasn't left Perth, and Bali's not included, okay, but we are so fortunate in Perth to live here. It's we're so fortunate. So to be born here, just to be born here, and to be able to experience, and I'm probably, sorry to the group that I was with there in Peru, I probably banged on about Perth a bit too much. I don't know why. Like, I don't really talk about Perth that much, but we've spoken about it on other podcasts. There's definitely something happening here in Perth. There's no doubt about it. There's something happening, and it's fantastic. So all that became evident to me during the 10 days, during the 5 ceremonies, and I haven't gone into detail what that happened to me, but there's lots of little details and lots of little things that happened during it, which I don't really feel like sharing now, but I might one day. We'll see what happens. Then afterwards, the next night we went back into Kitos, and it was another one of my brothers. Again, they're all brothers, sisters. I'm just going to call the males brothers. Actually, can I just say one thing? In that fifth ceremony, when I'd finished, well, when it had finished, it was just me and one other guy there, who's on the other side of Malacca, and most people were either in bed or outside. A few people were singing, and I remember I was singing Bob Marley songs, which, even though I was still journeying very, very hard at that time, brought to me this immense. I was starting to feel better, and it brought me this immense joy. Listen to these people sing Bob Marley songs. It was great, and but at one stage, 3 of my brothers and one of my sisters, I consider her my little sister. She slept in the bed next to me in the tambo. They all came in, and one of them sat on my left-hand side, one of them sat on my right, and one of them sat directly in front of me. And they could tell something was up with me, and my little sister sort of just sat off a little bit, and she was just sort of holding tight, I don't know, like just holding some space. And my brother on my left, he put his hand on my shoulder, and he's just breathing in, and I was still fucking just right out of it. But I could now at least comprehend what was going on around me. And they were just giving me this immense strength, this immense support and love. And I just remember thinking, really, how lucky am I? And how fortunate am I? Like, why? And why are these people around me? Why am I so fortunate? I know why, because, leaving all modesty aside, like, I do understand I'm a good person, and, and people appreciate that about me. And that's why, I'm very fortunate to have the friends I do, and friends who definitely look after me. Like, yeah, it's fantastic. So I know why, but, so I was sort of questioning it still, but, mostly just appreciating it. And then my brother in front of me, after a while, maybe 10-15 minutes, he come up and, do you know what, actually before that, one of my sisters, it was quite interesting, the dynamic between the group of 27 of us. There was about half male, half female, and I've got a real interest in sociology, and I'm obviously studying it at uni. But to see how the group dynamic would work, as a communal thing, how relationships and friendships would evolve amongst the men and amongst the women, and between the men and the women as well. And I reckon I loved everyone there, and I loved every woman there, but I fell in love with maybe 5 of the women that were there, and like a deep love, like, I could easily see myself in a relationship with each of them. And the woman who I'd become most close to towards the end there, we didn't even really talk that much at the beginning of the whole retreat, but she came into the Malacca, and a couple of people had been in before that, and you don't want to distract people while they're journeying still, and so they just come over and just acknowledge, and I look at them, and I just sort of, and then they go away, just a bit of a nod, yep, that's fine. But one of my sisters came over, this woman I'd become quite close to, and she came over, and I started feeling it more together this stage, I suppose. She put her hand on my shoulder, and then she said, "Oh, can I give you a hug?" And I was like, "Okay, I'm ready for a hug now." I was sitting down, and I was ready for a hug, and she sort of leant. She was still standing. She leant over and gave me a hug, and we were like that for about 5 or 10 minutes, and it felt, I was still so tense, because I've been battling, I've been just, and she sort of helped me loosen a bit, and I was have a breathe. And she said, "Oh, I want to sit in your lap now." So I had like my right ankle, right foot up on my left knee. So she sort of adjusted around onto my, onto my left lap, and then we gave each other a big hug, for another 5 or 10 minutes, and then, but when she was standing over me, it was like some goddess was standing over. She's just the most beautiful, exotic-looking woman. She's just immensely beautiful, and I'm still like tripping balls, and I've just got this amazingly beautiful woman like looking over me, like sort of am I in heaven moment, and to share that sort of half hour, and then the third part of our hug, she just put her forehead to my forehead, and we just stayed there again for another sort of 10 minutes hugging each other. It was just immense, and again, very thankful for that. And then that's when the boys came in after that, maybe 5 or 10 minutes after that. And then, so my brother that was standing in front of me to go back around to it, he came up to me and said, come on, it's time you go to bed now. It's ready to go to bed. And sort of something snapped at me. I was like, yeah, it's time to go. And so we all stood up and walked over to my other brother who was still journeying at that stage on the other side of the Malacca. And I remember walked up to him and I knelt down and put my hand on his shoulder, and the 3 brothers and my sister were just sort of circling him, but he still wasn't ready. And one of my brothers, I'll call him Bad Jesus, because that's an apt nickname that we all gave him. Just an incredible human being, but he helped this particular brother, and sort of got him up and took him to the toilet and helped him back, and yeah, I was the last one to leave the Malacca that night. I just wanted to be the last one to step foot outside, and I was given the opportunity to do that. And we all sort of stood outside as my brother, who was still journeying quite hard, went to the toilet, and the moon was just incredible. For anyone who's been in the Amazon jungle at night time, with the insects and the bugs and the energy that's there, it's quite an amazing place. And the moon was out. I can't remember if it was a full moon or it was just past a full moon, maybe, or not quite a full moon yet. No, it's just past. We had a full moon on the 4th night, 4th ceremony. Closest thing to heaven that we have on this world. In there in the jungle, with just this energy from the plants and from the insects, from the animals, the noises, it wraps you around. If you lay in bed and it feels like it wraps you around like a blanket. But then you couple this with this intense love and connection that every person had for each other, and it's just amazing. So yeah, went back to Iquitos for dinner, and then a few of us decided we had a couple of days. Those who still had a couple of days before they had to fly over Iquitos, could go back to the retreat if they wanted to. So I did, amongst sort of maybe a dozen of us, maybe 10, and then flew out from there and got quite sick. A lot of us got quite sick. I had 2 parasites and 1 bacteria in my body, so yeah, been quite ill since I've got back physically, to go with all the other shit, and that's what's been quite hard, I think, not just physically, but coming from this, you're in an altered state of consciousness, basically, we'll say 75% of the time, you're in a different realm, you're literally in a different realm, and then you come back to life as you're used to it, as you're born into, as you're conditioned into, and everyone's found that quite hard. Some have dealt with it better than others, and I found it quite difficult after my very first ceremony I ever did earlier this year. But the second and third ceremonies were right. But coming back from the Amazon and doing it here, I found it quite difficult, and I didn't give myself enough space, enough time. I went straight back into work, like I said, went straight back into catching up with my close friends and had my birthday. I had an awesome day at Kings Park with about 30 of just the most amazing people, my most amazing friends. And I found it was great during it, but then I found it really difficult that night and the next day, and I got a bit depressed. I don't get depressed. I'm always quite even, but found it's been very challenging. But that's been part of the learning experience as well. So I know 2014 is going to be a big year. Once all this sort of correlates and integrates, I was saying to a friend of mine the other day that I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel yet, but I can feel that I'm coming up, just getting around to the corner, like I'm just on that, coming up to that last corner, and I'm going to get there soon, and that's the way it feels, for what I don't exactly know yet. Okay, I'm going to go woo-woo. Fuck it, I might as well. But one of the things maybe, like, think it was the second ceremony. I can't remember if it was during the ceremony or afterwards when I was laying in bed and I was getting all this information downloaded into me. This sort of entity came to me and said to me that, and I mean this with all humility, like I don't even know if it's real or not, but who knows, like it said to me that, Adrian, just keep doing what you're doing. We're going to come to you in the near future and we're going to give you a message that you need to share with the rest of the world. And yeah, I don't know what that's going to be or even if it will happen, but I've always had this thing since I was a little kid that something like that is going to happen to me personally, and I'm sure I won't be the only one, but yeah, I know it sounds a bit wacky and all that. I really don't talk about it to many people, although I'm sharing it over the internet now, so but I've only spoken to a few friends about it in the past. So anyway, we'll see what happens, whether that eventuates or not. There's lots of little things like that happen, you know. So yeah, I think that might be it. There's some other stuff I want to talk about, I guess, but you know, things are definitely changing around the world. You know, facilitated by things like the internet, and it can be used for good and bad, of course, but it's whether you choose to use it for good, and you attract good. You attract like for like, and that's certainly happened to me. I've been very fortunate, especially over the last 2 or 3 years, and I just want to thank everyone for being a part of that with me. And there's a lot of work to do still, but it's good and it will happen, you know. And just know that we're all very fortunate. No matter what's going on in your life, how hard it is and how shitty it can be, and how tough it is, that we're just very fortunate to be born into a human body. You know, there's this one great story I just remembered just now. I can't remember who told it. It might have been Ron during one of the sharings, but I can't remember who it was. But there's a story of something like in this vast ocean of the world, or some planet somewhere, just it was all ocean. There's this, well, it must be all ocean, but this plank of wood that's got one hole in it about this big, and there's a turtle swimming through that ocean. And he needs to swim down, and he stays down there for eons, and he comes back up, swims down, and comes back up. Actually, might not even been during Peru, might have been one of the ceremonies I had before Peru. I think it was actually. But anyway, the story goes that this turtle comes up and down, and then in one moment, this turtle's head comes up in this vast ocean, and his head pops up in this circle in this plank of wood. And that very chance of occurrence of that happening is how fortunate we are to be born a human being. We are so very fortunate to be able to experience this. And I know a lot of people in the world have fucking shitty lives. Shitty lives. They're born into some shitty circumstances. And then how do you justify that though? How can you say then that we're lucky to be human? I don't think you can. I don't think you can quantify it. I don't think you can quantify it, qualify it. It's just this knowledge that, you know, it's all part of a lesson for us. It's all part of, if you believe in that we have souls and we have soul progression and reincarnation, that life is just one big lesson, then what an amazing way to learn then in this human body, where, you know, we get to touch, taste, we get to run, we get to swim, we get to fuck, we get to do all these amazing things. And yeah, just these immensely pleasurable things. We get to enjoy that. Maybe the real thing is that for us, those of us And I'd say most of the people that are watching this at the moment, we get to experience that. But for those who don't, it's our duty to help those people, to help better everyone's life around you, to help raise them up, But it really is about starting with yourself. I always bang on about this analogy of, when the aeroplane goes crashing down and the oxygen masks come out, you need to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you can help anyone else. And that's true in life too. You need to help yourself first. You need to start from within, work from inside out, and then you can progress, and then that just brings people up with you. And it's not by saying to someone, you need to do this, you need to do that. I've been guilty of doing that in the past with people like, I've got myself to this good part of my life, I keep physically fit, I eat healthy, and mentally, and things are going quite well for me. So things I've done to work on that don't necessarily work for everyone else. So I've been given in the past saying, you need to go do yoga, you need to go for a run, you need to go do some weights, you need to meditate. But it doesn't work for everyone. And there's no point, maybe there's not any point, but there's no really need to go telling people what to do. Just do it yourself. And just other people will see that. Other people will be guided by that and be motivated by that, I suppose, as I have been with other people, just watching other people around me, and that's given me a lot of motivation to do the things I do now. And it's being open to it is really important. I think that might be it. Yeah. Hello to everyone from the Peru crew who are watching this. I love you all. And hopefully see you again in July. We'll see what happens with university and all that. I have to go back at the end of July, so that's when we're looking at doing something over there in London, but I'll try my best to get over there. If someone can lend me a couch that I can surf on, then that'd be great. Paying for accommodation when you're at university sort of hurts a little bit, so if I can crash at someone's house, that'd be fantastic. Again, just thank you to all of you, that we just had an amazing group, and again, with the benefits of technology, and we've got a Facebook group together that we've been able to stay in touch, and it's been fantastic. So again, I love you all very much, and to everyone else that's watching this, I love you too. That's what we are. That's who we are. We are just I'm gonna go woo-woo, but we are just all love, really. That's who we intrinsically are. But we get a lot of social conditioning placed over the top of us to become unloving, and it's unfortunate. But we just need to find that again. Each individual person just needs to find that instinctive, intuitive love that we are, and it can be done. I might do a podcast on it. I really want to do a podcast together with, if I do it, it'll be with Ross and Daniel one day. Again, we tried doing one last weekend and just didn't work out, and but maybe I won't do one either. Maybe this will be the extent of it, but we'll see what happens. So we'll see how that goes. Alright, I think that's it. So thank you very much, everyone, and I'll get some more podcasts going soonish. I'm sort of homeless at the moment, so I'm just house sitting in a friend's place, and then I haven't really got anywhere to live, so I've got to sort out where I'm going to be living, but I'll do it over the next week or so, and then maybe when I'm more set, then I'll start doing some more podcasts again. I've got a lot of great people coming up that have they're allowing me to interview them, and really looking forward to getting them on board and sharing their stories, and so I guess that's be for the new year. So stay tuned for that. Okay, alright, I'm going this time. I'll see you later. Bye.